Hello everyone. This week we're going to be cooking up some delicious chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, perfect thing to get out there and make if you wind up procrastinating your studies a little bit. Maybe you're into stress baking or maybe you're just really craving cookies. I don't know. But we're going to be using this adapted recipe here. You can find it on just about any chocolate chip chunk, chocolate chip bag. And I'm just going to be making the perfect size so I don't feel guilty about not sharing it with anyone, because it'll wind up giving me the perfect amount of cookies. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, here we are. All our ingredients have been gathered in front of us. You'd either find that from pausing on the list in the beginning of the video, or I'll put it in the description. Now, first thing that we got to do is cream our butter and sugar together. So I got some pretty nice butter here, but I took it straight out of the fridge. So best way to remedy that situation, just toss it in the microwave for about 15 seconds or so, and then it should be good to go. Alrighty, after 15 seconds, I got this butter here. I think it may be a little bit too soft. Some of it's a little bit melted now, but honestly, that's okay. It's baking, it's not rocket science. We should be all right. So you're gonna put your butter in the bowl there, and you're gonna measure out your sugar. Now on the list here, it says that I could use about 3/8 cup. I only have a 1/2 cup, so I'm just gonna guesstimate a little bit. Okay, after getting our white sugar in there, we can move on to getting our brown sugar in, which hopefully will be a little bit easier to open than the white sugar is. You don't have to use these. You could use molasses and pixie sticks if you want it to taste gross, but I kind of want my cookies to be edible, so I'm just going to follow the instructions and hope for the best. I also like to add a little bit of extra just in case when I'm just measuring like this, because I don't have precise measuring cups. I don't know what happened to them. They're kind of gone, so we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. But once we have all this stuff in the bowl here, what you can do, you can take a whisk, you can take a spoon if you're fancy, but I just like to use a fork, and we can start creaming it all together. And I'll show you what that looks like in the end. If you did your job right, you should end up with something like this. You can see it's kind of like wet beach sand almost, but I really only care about the analogy that you use after you add an egg. So let's add an egg to that. Now, you can open this however you want. I saw someone cut one in half with a knife once. I wouldn't do that. Just crack it like a normal person on your cutting board or any other flat surface. And you can just go ahead and crack that puppy right in there. And then you take the shell, don't eat it, throw it in the garbage. Don't let your intrusive thoughts win, y'all. It's a rough world out there. Now, I paused my video to wash my hands, but you can see what you end up with is this weird, like, peanut butter, cashew butter kind of consistency. I don't know. That's how most people describe it. I think that's a little weird because I don't have egg in my nut butter, but if that's what you're into, I mean, no judgment. But once we get to this point, that's when we can start working on adding our dry ingredients in. So let's take care of that now. Okay, so normally you're supposed to do this with 2 bowls, but I'm feeling very lazy, so I'm just going to do it in the one. And because of that, I'm going to add the baking soda first. Seen things online where people mention how if you add your dry ingredients and you beat the flour too much, it like builds up gluten and you get a weird texture. I don't really want that, so I'm just not going to take the risk. Now that I have the baking soda in, I can move on to adding the rest of the dry ingredients, which is flour and salt. Now, I buy salted butter because I'm too lazy to buy 2 different kinds of butter, so I'm not going to add the salt, and instead I'm just going to add the flour. Now, I'm only using a 1/2 cup measuring cup, and I need to add a 1 1/8 cups of flour, so there's going to be a lot of eyeballing here, and it means that I'm either going to mess up horribly, or these are going to be the best cookies that I ever have, so take what you can get. Now, I can't add too much here because I've been overdoing it a little bit on the others. So that looks like we should be pretty good there. Now, normally you would also want to add vanilla into this at some point, but I forgot to buy vanilla, so I'm not going to add any vanilla in this. We're just going to do it the way it is. But you can see here, you're kind of just sifting the flour in. Make sure to get it all over yourself, so you have to clean up more and clean up your counter and really just make a mess. You're cooking here. Have fun with it. It's supposed to be relaxing, so no reason to stress yourself out. But once we finish mixing this up, we're gonna add the chocolate chips in. I bought chocolate chunks because I was feeling fancy, so I'll take you guys back here when I get to the point where I can add them. So now that we've reached this point, we can do one of two things. We can either add the chocolate chips in now, or we can put a little bit off to the side. When I was a kid, I never really liked the chocolate for some reason, and I would just eat the cookies without chocolate in them. I thought they were great, so if you think they are too, no shame. Don't let people judge you and force you to eat chocolate if you don't want it. But I am going to do chocolate now. And there's like a little bit of question out there as to, you know, what's the right amount of chocolate? Do you want like a super chocolatey one? Do you not want it? I think that the perfect amount is whatever you feel like, minus a small quality control handful. So I'm going to take that much and then add however much I want. Now you can mix it in and then look afterward. And if it looks like you added the right amount of chocolate, then you probably did, and you're good to go. But you can always start with less and add more as you go. So the only recommendation I'd have with that is don't overdo it, because there's really no turning back once you get it incorporated. I think I'm gonna add a couple more. Okay, there we go. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can actually wind up bowling up our little bits we can put on the pan. My dad always liked to use a spoon back in the day, but I'm kind of feeling lazy tonight, so I'm just gonna grab our pan from over here, slap it down next to it over here in a really cockeyed fashion, and go in with my hands. I think the perfect size is get a ball that's about that big, maybe a tablespoon or so. Smack it down, maybe give it like a little smack, and that'll do it plenty. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 12 of these at a time on my baking sheet. I can leave like 3 fingers worth of room between each. I'm not really precise when it comes to this, and that means I'm either gonna regret it a lot later or it's gonna come out perfect. But I've always said baking's not a precise art, and I've always failed at making cookies, so maybe you don't want to take my advice. Okay, so I finished putting all the cookies on, and I realized that I completely forgot to add a pinch of cinnamon to it. So I'm just gonna straight up pretend that I added the cinnamon, and we're just not gonna cry. Now, another thing that would be pretty useful is making sure to remember to preheat your oven to 375, like I definitely did. That way you don't have to wait here for about 20 minutes for your oven to preheat, which is about how long that it'll take to get all your ingredients together and mix up the cookies. So yeah, make sure you do that, and then you can go ahead and throw the cookies in and then watch them as they go, and I'll show you what they look like when they should be good. So it's been about 5 minutes or so since I've put the cookies in, and as you can see, they're not on the sheet anymore. And that's because this sheet is too big for my new oven in my new apartment, so I need to buy a new one. I tossed them on this, and as you can see, they're going along pretty strong. When they start to get golden around the edges, that's when I like to take them out. That way you get that beautiful mixture between a really soft and really chewy cookie, while also maintaining some crispy crunch on the end. So yeah, I'll show you guys when they're done. And this is what we've ended up with. So you can see we have a couple different cookie varieties here. We have these small guys that are kind of Chips Ahoy style, if you will. And then you have a couple big ones here. You have the big flat cookie with some cracking and the fatter cookies with some cracking. This one was pressed down with a larger amount of dough. This one wasn't. But to get the cracking, all you do is stick a fork underneath, lift them up a little bit, and it makes them a bit more aesthetically pleasing. The best thing that you can do from here is grab the cookie of your choice, get a little bit of milk to go alongside it, and enjoy. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. I promise that the production capabilities will be increasing as time goes on, and they won't really be reminiscent of a 2-year-old. So stay tuned. I'll be trying to upload at least once a week, and thank you for watching. That's a good cookie.